31. Dear Kiddo, take my hand into darkness, and also Beaver Creek for some reason. Adventures with Mom. There are a few universal truths in life: death, taxes, and the fact that Mom could screw up literally anything. I mean anything. Give her the simplest, most straightforward task, and somehow, she would turn it into an operatic saga of misjudgment, unnecessary complications, and, usually, a wildly misplaced temper tantrum. I'm not saying she was the single greatest saboteur of her own happiness, but I am saying that if she were an Olympic athlete, her event would be emotional self-destruction with a 10% difficulty score. The Beaver Creek blunder. Now, to be fair, things between us were fine at this point. Mostly. By fine, I mean we weren't actively engaged in psychological warfare, which, for us, was about as good as it got. Yes, I still had serious questions about her character. Yes, I was deeply skeptical of her as a person. But at least at this point, she wasn't dangerous, just annoying. So when she planned a long weekend in Beaver Creek, Colorado, I thought, all right, could be worse. Could have been Florida. Why Beaver Creek? No, seriously. Why? Now, if you're planning a trip for a young couple, Beaver Creek isn't exactly the hottest destination. It's not Boulder, it's not Telluride, it's not even one of those obscure but charming mountain towns where you find a bar that serves craft beer out of mason jars while a guy in a cowboy hat plays the banjo ironically. It's just there. And that, dear reader, is when I started to realize Mom wasn't planning a vacation for us. She was planning a vacation for the ghost of her third ex-husband, Craig. Because otherwise, why? Why this place? Why Cherry Creek, Denver, over her birthday? Why any of these suspiciously boring, weirdly specific locations that no one under the age of 65 would voluntarily go to unless they were cosplaying as wealthy retirees? The answer was clear. Mom was reliving something. Something that had nothing to do with me. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. The great spa and fine dining betrayal. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy nice things. I like a good spa day. I appreciate fine dining. But when those things become the entirety of the vacation, I start to feel like I'm trapped in an episode of Real Housewives where nobody actually fights, and therefore, nothing interesting happens. And that's when I had my great realization, the big one, the epiphany that would change everything. Mom was fundamentally boring, like aggressively boring. Now, that's not to say she wasn't a spectacle. She was. Oh boy, was she. But if you stripped away the chaos, the drama, the histrionics, the gaslighting, and the occasional Olympic-level napkin throwing, there was nothing left. She wasn't witty. She wasn't clever. She didn't have the art of conversation. She didn't have a sense of humor. What she did have was an exhausting commitment to ideological dogma, a fixation on appearing wealthy, and the ability to ruin any perfectly good moment with an unsolicited argument. And the only time she wasn't boring? Well, you can fill in the blanks. When the mask falls off, it was on this trip that I saw her for what she really was. Not the magnetic, charismatic force of nature I once thought she was. Not the larger-than-life figure who commanded rooms and controlled narratives. Just a bored, boring, high-maintenance woman trying to recreate some long-dead fantasy with the wrong person. And I was the wrong person. I wasn't her ex-husband. I wasn't her replacement therapy dog. I wasn't here to relive some past chapter of her life just because she couldn't move forward. And for the first time, I realized I wanted out. Not just out of Beaver Creek, out of all of it. Final thoughts? Or a reminder to listen to your gut. Looking back, my instincts were screaming at me on this trip. That low-level discomfort. That nagging voice saying something isn't right. That weird sense that I was just a prop in someone else's play. I didn't fully act on it then, but it was coming. Because once you see the truth, dear reader, you cannot unsee it. And what I saw was a woman living in a fantasy, dragging me into it, and making damn sure I had the most miserable time possible. Never again.